Coming to you live from the Business Radio X studio, it's Franchise Marketing Radio, brought to you by IDS, an award-winning digital marketing agency that delivers integrated marketing solutions for franchisors, franchisees, and franchise development teams. Learn why over 75 brands depend on IDS's team of dedicated marketers and client service professionals to deliver a strong ROI on their marketing investment. Go to idsfranchisemarketing.com for a complimentary digital audit and consultation.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Franchise Marketing Radio. I'm your host, Rob Ganley, and I have a great guest with me today. Very interesting guest, interesting brand, I should say, and guest. But her name is Rachel Southard. She is the brand president for Men in Kilts. Welcome to the show, Rachel.
Thank you, Rob. I like to think of myself as interesting, so we can go with that.
Yes, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. But you might have an inkling of what I'm talking about. But that's great to have you today. So tell us a little bit more about Men in Kilts, the brand, how you landed where you are, and what's going on with your future plans.
Yeah, so I have been in this role as the brand president for Men in Kilts for about 18 months. Men in Kilts is part of Threshold Brands. So we're one of 9 brands in the Threshold Brands portfolio, backed by Riverside Private Equity. All of our brands are in the home services space. So Men in Kilts, although, we have to kind of explain it, part of what we'll talk about today doesn't really say what we do in our name, but we are exterior home cleaning, exterior building cleaning. So think window cleaning, gutter cleaning, pressure washing, house washing.
Right, exactly. Well, what's interesting about the brand is, exactly how do you tie the Men in Kilts? And it's obvious all about doing, hard work and doing it well, right? And following through. But tell us more about that. I know there was a little bit of a rebranding fairly recently, right? And how did you, work that through? And tell us more about that, your approach to that.
Yeah. So when I came into the brand last year, that one of the first things let me just start by saying I'm an ops girl. Like I come from an operations background. I have a strong passion and love for marketing, especially over the last year and a half working with this brand. But one of the first things that I noticed when I came in was exactly that reaction that most people give. Well, what is this brand? What do you do? And if I'm asking that, then consumers are asking that, and there's confusion, and that makes it really hard to sell your product. So that was kind of the number one priority for me coming in was, how do we tighten up our positioning? How do we tighten up our messaging? How do we leverage that kilt in a way that's going to really resonate with our customers to grow the business? And that's kind of what we set out to do this year in 2022.
Wow. So I know exactly. It's not an easy process. And when I think of branding, I think of like when we see logos like a Nike swoosh or something. And by the way, I didn't always know it was called that, but I feel really fancy that I could call it something. But like when you see Nike, you think of just do it. You think of pushing yourself to the next level. They have a brand, right? That's a brand. It makes you feel a certain way. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the ethos of your brand. So obviously, Men in Kilts has a certain mission, a certain idea about how it approaches giving or delivering its service. Tell us more about that and how it ties to your effort here to rebrand.
So when we started this rebrand project, we wanted to make sure we were making very data-driven decisions and not just going off of a feeling. So it involved a lot of research. Even though we all had kind of our hypotheses of what was happening, we wanted to make sure if you're going to undertake a rebrand, that it is really rooted in data and research. So we did a lot of consumer research. We did franchisee interviews, existing customer interviews. I mean, we got a lot of different data points that we kind of dissected and used that to pull some insights to influence the direction that we went. One of the things that we saw and heard, I should say this, we worked backwards from, we need to control this narrative. And Men in Kilts had a little bit of gimmickiness to it. And that was a word that came out, and we heard that word a lot in all 3 of these, existing customers, purchase intenders, franchisees. Gimmicky kept coming up. No peaking. While it's really fun and you can have a lot of fun with it, it really doesn't scream professionalism. And when you're thinking of home services, the number one thing that we heard from customers is, reliability and trust. And people aren't going to trust a gimmick. And so we knew we had some work to do there. And we really dug into the kilt. I mean, that's our biggest, differentiator is our distinctiveness of the kilt. And how do we leverage that in a way that has us controlling the narrative and, stop with the no peeking, because it is gimmicky and disrespectful. And we heard that a lot from our franchisees. People don't take me seriously. And so what we did was we really wanted to, when you think about the kilt, the heritage of the kilt and the nobleman and the noble purpose behind the men that wore the kilt, that's what we were wanting to embrace. And we kind of tied that with, when you think of the strongman competition or Braveheart, like think about who was wearing those kilts, right? These warriors, battlemen and strength and power. And you were out doing these really what we call tough to tackle jobs, getting on ladders and outdoor cleaning. And how do you marry those two things together? And again, I know you say, like, what does the kilt have to do with any of this? But when you think of the kilt, you think of a really strong person that you can trust. They're going to take care of you. They're going to take care of your home. That's the narrative. That's the story that we are bringing to life. Yeah.
I love that. Now, I think, Braveheart's is one of those movies, right? I think I've watched it at least a half a dozen times every now and then. But it's a great representation of courage, right? And having integrity and following through and doing good work and doing it because of that. That's why I do it. I do it because you should do it, right? And I think that's an amazing tie-in to a brand. So that's cool. I wanted to talk about that.
It's a great tie-in, but also it was one of the number one things that we heard from our purchase intenders when they're looking for a home service provider. You are winning in this industry if you just call people back. Like, the bar is set so low. It's just really hard to find reliable home service providers. Yeah. So if we really lead with that, like, integrity and trust, I mean, you will win all day long.
Yeah. And I would say the franchise industry does a lot of good for that, what you just said, because you're in a fragmented industry where there's a lot of independent players, local players, and they come and go, I would suppose. Exactly. And so so the franchise industry really does bring that stability. It does bring that consistency, kind of like we're used to in other types of industries. So that's awesome. So you are growing. Congrats, right? So tell me a little bit about what's happening. I think you're at, is it 40 or 50 units now, or territories, or maybe a little more? Where are you at?
We're at 40, I think 8 as of this week. It's every week I have to count and see where we're at. Territory sold, 37 open. I'm flying out to open one tomorrow in Miami.
Wow.
So we're growing really fast. We've doubled. When I started last summer, we were at 26, I believe, when I came on. So, I mean, we've almost doubled in size in the last year, and we're not slowing down, which is really exciting.
Yeah, no, I saw that, and I know it's not easy to do. And it also means that, and this is the question I wanted you to share a little bit with, is your approach to onboarding, right? Your approach to rolling a brand new franchisee out to, kind of from start to, success, or what does that look like year one? But I know that you want to roll them out, and and this is what franchising is about, right? You take all that complexity and difficulty and challenge of rolling in a brand new business in a new market. Tell us a little bit of how that looks, both from operations and from marketing, when you get, start new like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely about putting processes in place so that you can scale. You have to have that foundation, because you never know when you're going to experience explosive growth. I mean, it could literally happen overnight, because that momentum builds, and before you know it, you've sold 10 new franchises. And if you don't have those processes in place, you're not going to launch your new franchisees successfully, or you're going to be held back because you can only do so many at once and you're holding people back. And that's not a position that you want to be in. Thankfully, my experience in franchising is from a really big brand that grew really fast and saw a lot of success. I was with the Anytime Fitness brand for about 10 years. And so when I started there, just a few hundred locations across the US and Canada, starting to expand into Australia. 10 years later, when I left, 4,000 locations worldwide, 33 countries are still growing. So being able to apply a lot of those operations to this small scale has been really helpful. And we're doing things today that most small emerging brands aren't thinking about, because you're really just thinking about what's right in front of you. But you have to be looking out what's next year, 2 years, 5 years, because if you don't take care of it now, you're going to crumble. And it's some easy things you can do to get ahead of it. So that's what we've been focusing on this year. The onboarding of new franchisees has been a big priority for us, but that touches every single aspect of the business. And how do you automate as much as you can, set it up for scale, get that kind of, a book off the shelf for the franchisees. This is what I need. I can go to it and not rely on everything from one person and all the information's in their head. Like you have to document everything down. Yeah. It's amazing how many brands you see just, who does that? Oh, that person, it's all in their head. Like, no.
Yeah. No, I was thinking of a commercial. I don't know if anyone would remember this, but there was one years ago where like the guy that person like was walking to a meeting and bumped his head on a filing cabinet and knocked him out. He didn't know, because he was the only guy with the information in his head, right? Yeah. It was this important meeting and he was, and it's just that it was a play on the idea that you really can't do it that way if you want to protect yourself, right? But that's
kind of the game when you're in that startup mode. Everyone wears a lot of hats. A lot of times one person's doing all the things, and you're so busy taking care of all the things that you don't have the time to stop and do those things. And fortunately for us, that's the beautiful thing about having private equity partners and that support and that funding, so that you have the resources you need to take the time to do those things, to set yourself up for growth. It's really hard to do that when you're just kind of a founder-led brand, or you don't have that level of investment. And that's been a great thing about being a part of Threshold and having Riverside as a partner. It really has allowed us to slow down in the areas where we need to slow down and take our time and do it right, but keep the foot on the gas of growth. And it's great to be able to do both.
Wow. Yeah. And I would say to anyone listening, I mean, that makes you very unique. I mean, you and the brands that are affiliated with Threshold, and I know there's other, you mentioned, I think you were part of another brand group, but, having that on top of being part of a franchise, for anybody thinking about starting a business, that is a lot of support, a lot of foundational support. And again, the access you have to kind of see, again, kind of have vision for the future, right? Where you wouldn't have that if you didn't have the other experience and the other brands and the other players that are there with you. And that was interesting what you said about the foot on the gas, but take your time in other places. When you're a business owner, you don't have time to really do that, especially a local type of business, right? And so having you guys behind the scenes working on the business perpetually, always refining it, always making it better. So tell me a little bit about that. You have, I know, some new, I don't know if it's new, but I know I mentioned something about a new guarantee, or maybe it was this year, but you have a new approach to how you back up what you said earlier about, you said the bar was somewhat low, but, you want to make it very clear you're not about that. And the brand's not about that. It's about doing what you say you'll do, right? Tell me more about the guarantee. I think it's called Plaid or something like that.
Promise. So the Plaid Promise is our, of course, from a marketing perspective, we want to leverage that kilt everywhere we can. So you'll see a lot of fun. That was one thing, we wanted to lose the gimmickiness, but we didn't want to lose the fun in the brand personality that we have. So you'll see us really doing some fun spin on words and plays on words like plaid and tartan, and a lot of You have to, go to our website, minikilts.com. It's a really cool, we've got some quirkiness there. And we have the plaid promise, but one of my things that I'm most proud of with the rebrand is really getting tight on what our vision and purpose is, and what we're aiming to do. And when we kind of took a step back and looked at the work that we do, and we look at ourselves as a premium brand, we're not going to be the lowest, the cost, the cheapest option. But part of our research shows that our consumers are willing to pay more for a better experience. And we look at ourselves as an experience brand. So when we think about our purpose, it's to create extraordinary experiences. So when our techs show up, they're not just going to show up and clean your windows. There's going to be these little wow moments that they integrate into the experience. First of all, our consumer wants to be home when we show up. They're not, this isn't just like, oh yeah, clean my windows, I'll be at work. They're like, okay, what time are the kilts coming? Because I want to see it. I mean, and the neighbors want to see it. The neighbors are going to come outside and be like, what is going on over there? I mean, we're taking exterior home cleaning to a whole nother level. So we really needed to leverage that and make sure that we're not just cleaning the window, but we are providing a really fun, high quality experience. So, we talk about our purpose is to make every experience extraordinary. Our vision is to, and we went back and forth on the words. Every word has meaning. So, we really, we changed out different words in this statement, but it's to become the most respected and recognizable exterior home cleaning business in the communities where we serve. And respected was a really important word for us. At first, like, we want to be the biggest, we want to be the best, we want to, and it's easy to kind of think of that first. But again, going back to the pain point of the consumer, being the most respected was more important to us than being the biggest.
Yeah.
And, go ahead.
I was just going to interject real quick. That's hard to pull off what you're describing, because and I'm thinking as you're explaining it, but I like the event, the experience side, right? To not make it something, what you said earlier, where people didn't take it seriously. It got your attention, but it diverted from the other side, where you want to keep it in balance. You want people to pay attention and have fun with it and enjoy it, but you also do great work. And that's the bottom line of why you're there in the first place. But
exactly. And that's where that plaid promise comes in, is we're guaranteeing you that we are going to do very high quality work. And if you're not happy with it, we're going to come back out and we're going to fix it. So this isn't just, it's not a gimmick. We really are. We put, when we think about our value propositions through our rebranding, we have 4 value propositions. And I'll tell you, we launched this rebrand last May at our convention to our franchisees, and we have spent the entire year training on it, reinforcing it, rolling out the tools and resources needed for the franchisees to, embrace it and execute and deliver this. This doesn't just happen overnight. I mean, you can't just go do a rebrand and put words on a paper and expect it to come to life. I mean, it's reinforcement. And that's really, even looking towards 2023 and what's our strategy for 23, it's reinforcing everything we rolled out in 22. We're not adding anything new because this takes time. I mean, this takes repetition, and that's what we're focused on. But those 4 value propositions, the first one is our people, our technicians, because they're the ones that are going to deliver the experience. So it's those wow moments. It's the little things that we do, like, if we pull up to the house and your garbage can's still at the curb, we're going to pull it up. If we see trash, we're going to pick it up for you. If your paper's out in the yard, we're going to bring it up to the door. If the light bulb's out, we're going to say, hey, can we change that for you? So it's these little moments that you don't expect that we're delivering. We can't just email our franchisees and say, hey guys, starting Monday, start doing this. Like, it doesn't, I mean, as a franchisor, man, I wish it worked that way, but we have to train, reinforce, bring it up. Like, I saw Daniel Pink speak once, and he talked about, people don't hear you until you've said it seven times. It takes 7 times before people hear you. So they hear you the first time when it's your 7th time. And that's kind of what we've embraced. And we're until we're tired of saying it, they haven't heard it. And so, that's giving them all the tools and resources to execute on that has been a big project of ours.
And if we were doing a TV show, people would have saw me laughing about what you were saying about over communicating. Yeah. But that's actually very, very helpful. What you just said, the 7 times. Now, I've heard that in marketing used in different ways. But the communicating internally, and in our case, and I say our because I do consult franchisors and work with franchisors, but it is a lot of communication. It's about communication. And to get someone to embrace a brand idea or change the way they, have an experience with a client, that takes some time. Yeah. Not hard to understand the concepts, just like you said. And that's really important to understand because you know what? Just embrace the idea that you have to over communicate. Build your processes so that you are over communicating all the time and never stop over communicating. That to me is really impactful. Just do it because the opposite is they should just know. We've already told them 3 times. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you get stuck there. And
until you are sick of saying it, they have not heard you.
Right. So we've already told them 4 times. It's not enough.
Because we told them 3 or 4 times and we're already ready to go to the next thing. Like, wait, I'm way over here on this new thing. Y'all are still back there. What are you doing? I mean.
Yeah, no, very helpful, Rachel. That's a good point. I mean, internally, again, I've heard that many times used in the marketing idea where you're following up with someone to get their attention or they see your ads a certain number of times. But to say that in a communication sense, because it's true, we're all inundated with a lot more information than we ever have been in our lives. Most of us that are a little older, because we didn't always work within the internet, like, you know what I mean? And now we have all this extra information to process. Yeah. So we're just not hearing, right? Yeah. We got to hear it over and over. So that's really cool.
And also you kind of mentioned about working in the business, on the business. And one thing that I always have to remind myself and my team is that my most important priority is, I guarantee you, not my franchisee's most important priority. They are working in their business. They have a lot going on. And me communicating this one thing that I feel is so important is probably number 6 on their list. It's number 1 on mine. And we just have to respect that. I mean, they are running businesses every day. They have a lot going on. And it just, sometimes it's just the something you may have heard, like we said, 6 times. And it's just something about where you were and what you were doing that 7th time that you finally heard it. And we just have to give them the space and respect the grind that they're in every day.
Wow. Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Very, very cool. So tell me, and as we wrap up the show, I just wanted to kind of ask you.
That was way too fast. We can't be wrapping already.
I know. It's going. I know. It's a good conversation. So I wanted to try to take all that goodness that you just shared. Is there anything, you're now brand president for, I think, 3 brands now, but you've been in these roles where you've been a leader. You've been connected to brands that are very large. You have really recognizable folks in your corner now that really understand business. Tell me, is there something that you really feel like this is guiding me? And you just said something that was amazing about the 7 times and when you're communicating something. But is there one thing that guides you that you feel like, these are a set of principles or a way of looking at something that kind of guides you? And as you move forward with these new responsibilities, is there something as a leader that you say, this is something I stay focused on that would help others, maybe in your position?
Yeah, I feel I know exactly. It didn't take me but 1 second to think of what my answer was here. And I almost feel like I'm contradicting myself by saying it, because I do have to constantly even remind myself of this. But it's all about strategy. And strategy, the hardest part of strategy is knowing what to say no to, and just really focusing on 1 or 2 things and doing those 1 or 2 things really well. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of very important things that you need to do, but you have to prioritize and pick 1 or 2, and you have to get really good at saying no to everything else, or you're just going to half-ass everything. And that is a constant reminder, because even my team is like, I'm constantly like, oh, we need to do this. Oh, we need to do this. And I have to remind myself, is it the number one priority? Yes, it's important. And I think that's what we forget, is just because you say no to something, you're not saying that it's not important. It's just not the number one priority.
Yeah, no, that's very profound. I think of an idea that a coach taught me a number of years ago about sort of ranking your priorities in a world where there's a lot of important things, more important things than you have time for. That's the point.
Yes.
Could be very important, but so what's the first thing that everybody has to think about in a business? And probably it's profitability, right? It's you have to be making money so you can take care of your team, take care of the brand, take care of your clients. And so how do you prioritize? And it's always looking at things that are high impact for right now, low effort, high impact, sort of a ranking it by that, right?
That impact quadrant that we are always sticky noting things on that quadrant to help prioritize. Low effort, high impact all day long.
Yeah, no, I was thinking it's one of those tools I have as well. But yeah, exactly. You have to constantly refine. That's actually the thing where you're learning to say no. You're refining what you're working on. You're always zeroed in on that line between where you are in profitability or what makes that biggest impact. And that's the key. And yeah, that's what I find myself constantly redirecting. If I'm working with a client who's in your spot or, on a team like yours, that's what we're always doing, right? And then we stay focused once we know what's the most important things. But I do find that's the challenge. This is that everybody's shooting from the hip, running and going. But yeah, this is why I wonder, how do you do it without a franchise, right? So with that being said, is there a website or web address both for potential consumers and for potential franchisees that might want to join your team? Is there some websites you'd like to share?
So you can go to our websites, meninkilts.com. And that's both for consumers, and there's, if you're interested in opening a Men in Kilts in your local community, there's a space for you on that website as well to contact us. We've got, like we said, we've got close to 50 locations across US and Canada. So we're expanding and looking for some great partners to expand with us. So you can see where all of our locations are and reach out to us. You can also email me, Southard, SOUTHARD @meninkilts.com, or find me on LinkedIn as well. And yeah, I'd love to chat Men in Kilts and Threshold brands with anyone who's interested.
Wow, I can vouch for it. It'd be a good conversation. So you should reach out when someone gives you that opportunity. And it's a pleasure talking to you today, Rachel. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Rob.
And thanks for the guests for tuning in and all our listeners. We appreciate you, and bye for now.